Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive, really zeroing in on one specific, powerful scene.
That's right. It's set in the temple courts in Jerusalem, right at dawn.
And it involves Jesus, some religious leaders, and a woman accused of adultery.
The sources we have give us quite a vivid picture.
Yeah, they do. And our aim really is to unpack the core of this encounter. What's going on, and, why does it still hit home today?
Well, let's start with the setting itself. Gone. You mentioned that. It's this in-between time.
Right, neither night nor full day. And the location, the temple courts, a very significant place.
Absolutely. A place of religious authority, teaching, and Jesus has just arrived, we're told, from the Mount of Olives.
So maybe he was in like a state of prayer or contemplation just before this?
It's possible. And he walks into this already charged atmosphere. People are gathering to hear him teach.
And things escalate quickly.
They do. The teachers of the law, the Pharisees, they show up.
Not just show up, they bring someone with them, this woman.
And the accusation is incredibly direct. No beating around the bush.
No. The source quotes it as, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Just like that.
Presented as fact, a clear violation of the law of Moses.
It feels very much like a test, doesn't it? They're putting Jesus on the spot in front of everyone.
Definitely a challenge. They even state the legal penalty stoning and ask, now what do you say?
They're trying to trap him, perhaps, between Roman law and Mosaic law, or just gauge his stance.
Could be all of those things. It forces his hand, or so they think. The bluntness is key here.
Okay, so the accusation is laid bare. The challenge is issued. How does Jesus respond? Because it's not what they expect.
Not at all. Initially, there's silence from him, right? He bends down and starts to write on the ground.
Yeah, that pause. It must have felt electric. What was he writing? We don't know for sure.
We don't. But the action itself creates this moment of suspense before he speaks.
And when he does speak, wow. He stands up and says that line.
The famous line, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her."
Boom, just completely reframes the whole situation. It's like a verbal judo move.
Exactly. He doesn't argue the law, he doesn't excuse the act. Instead, he turns the spotlight right back onto the accusers.
It's incredibly powerful. What do you think the immediate impact of that statement was in that crowd?
Well, it must have just stopped everyone cold. It shifts the focus from the woman's sin to the potential sin, or maybe just the conscience, of everyone standing there, ready to condemn.
It forces introspection. Suddenly, it's not about her anymore, it's about them. Are they qualified to carry out this judgment?
Precisely. It cuts through the self-righteousness. It taps into that universal human truth, who here is truly without sin.
You can imagine the silence then, a different kind of silence. Heavy, awkward maybe?
I would imagine so. The sources say that after he says this, he bends down and writes on the ground again.
Giving them time to process it, to really think.
And what happens? One by one, starting with the older ones, they just leave.
They drop their stones, perhaps metaphorically or literally, and walk away.
Until it's just Jesus and the woman left. The accusers are gone.
So for you listening, what are the big takeaways here from this, really condensed, intense drama?
Well, one thing is definitely the power of a simple, unexpected question or statement. How it can completely shift a dynamic.
Yeah, Jesus didn't need a long speech, just that one sentence.
It challenged their assumptions, their perceived authority. It turned the whole thing inward.
And that leads to the second point, I think, this idea of judgment and self-reflection.
Absolutely. The importance of looking at yourself before you point the finger at someone else.
It's not necessarily saying judgment is always wrong, but it's asking, from what position are you judging?
Right. Are you aware of your own flaws, your own failings, as you prepare to condemn another? It encourages humility, maybe?
I think so. Humility and perhaps a deeper understanding. It complicates the simple act of condemnation.
It forces a pause, encourages empathy, perhaps. Seeing the other not just as a sinner, but as a fellow human being.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've seen the setting, the sharp accusation, and that pivotal, game-changing response from Jesus.
A response that led to silence, reflection, and ultimately the dispersal of the accusers.
So here's a thought to leave you with, something to maybe mull over.
Okay.
In our lives, when we encounter situations where judgment seems easy or quick, what might change for you if you paused?
Pause and apply that challenge inwardly first. Am I without sin in this matter, or in general?
How might that change how you see the person, the situation, or even yourself? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for exploring the scene with us today.